Hello and welcome to a special TGS edition of Capcom Confidential.
Is that what makes it special, the fact that it's TGS?
Actually, no. What makes it special is our special guests.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
You might want to introduce us now.
All right, I'll introduce this. I'll start off with you, my friend, our good friend, producer, friend, and boss, ex-boss, Pete J. Fabiano.
Oh, thank you. You even included the J.
Yeah. Right.
And to my right, and you can't see that, but he is actually sitting kind of no, he's actually directly in front of me, is Matt Walker.
That's me.
Also producer on Devil May Cry 5.
That's right. My middle initial is not J. Thank you. That's nice. I like
special guest talking already.
Hey, well, they're excited. They're excited as we are. They're as excited as we are. And sitting next to you, who is this?
Wait, don't introduce them yet.
Oh, we're not. Oh, sorry. Okay, of course we're not.
We have to thank the fans.
Oh, thank you, fans.
What are we thanking them for, Matt?
I don't know. You told me to thank the fans. If it's up to me, I'm thanking them for paying attention and caring, and the fact that they're enjoying the games and they're interested in the games. That's what I would thank the fans for.
Well, yeah, and also thank you for listening, as always.
Oh,
and
that too.
I'm taking a moment of sincerity here and say thank you. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, and please continue to do so, as well as subscribe and tell your friends. The more people we have listen to this, the more we can do it. And we apologize for getting this one out a little late, but hopefully it's something a little bit special. And in addition to that, interesting, maybe.
Well, I mean, it'll definitely be a little special, just like one of our next guests, who's a little special. And I mean that only in the best sense of the term, because he's British. He has that special accent that I love so much.
All right, go ahead and introduce him. Go ahead.
What's your name?
Name's Tom Hart.
Oh, he's even doing the James Bond
Oh, he did
thing.
the James Bond thing. That was awesome. Only you're not drinking a martini.
That's close enough.
Shaken.
Whatever.
Not stirred.
All right.
Yeah.
So Tom Hart, my
Yeah.
friend, my dear friend, what's your deal?
Wait, we haven't introduced the other guest.
No, but I mean, we can't.
And that's my line.
Well, I know, but
This isn't how we planned
it. Can't
it,
just be like, here's his name, and like without any other context. Like, so why do we have you on, Tom Hart?
I guess I used to be an artist at Capcom, and then kind of transitioned from artist to game designer, and then moved around a bit in the industry, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, I used to work at Capcom.
There we go. So that's
Cool.
why.
So why is this special? Because today we have former Capcom employees on.
That's right. Former Capcom employees.
Capcom.
But Capcom. Capcom. I don't know if that's a Minnesota accent or what, but you said
You're from
employees. I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
It is.
But you said employees. You said plural, so that means there's
did.
more than just Tom Hart.
That's right. We have. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Mark Reichwein.
You had to think about that for a moment.
I don't know, I wanted to...
For him, it wasn't because he was trying to be like Bond. He was literally thinking,
maybe
wait, what's my name?
Who am I?
keep the James Bond thing going. I'm ex-Capcom as well. I started out as a translator, and I ended as a translator. Well, localization director.
Translator,
Yeah, don't confuse people.
Gets
Yeah, that's confusing.
specific localization director, but yeah. And that's what I did.
Not
I'm
only,
here.
you were also credited in RE7 as the localization director, right?
Yep, that was true. Yeah, that's
I
true.
bet you guys had a wonderful collaboration on RE7 with him being the localization director and you being Pete from RE7.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Right? Well, because you were in the game.
I was in the game.
That was amazing.
So technically, we were working with people inside and out of the game.
That's right. See, Mark knows what's going on.
Yeah.
He does, apparently.
Because he was the loc director. That's why.
So, why don't we
And
start
then-
with... Yeah, okay,
No,
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead,
Look,
go ahead, Matt.
Look, we have someone else that probably isn't going to talk a lot, but we got Tina in the corner. Say hi, Tina.
Hello.
See? So, there you go. Tina's in the corner.
This makes it sound like we have her locked up or something.
Well, Tom told us no Tina, so that's a lie. He didn't say that. He's not that mean. But okay, so
Well, one commonality that we have, at least this time around, not only the Capcom bit, but we're all here for TGS.
Yes.
So why don't you start by telling us what you're doing here at TGS?
I'm Mark, by the way.
They know that now. They're able to discern voices, I think.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there's only 4 of us, I guess. Okay, so yeah, I'm here. I'm with a new company called Fangamer, and I'm the head of Fangamer's Japan branch, and so we're selling game merch here for the first time. So it's been really rough, and we're learning some things. Really rough. Yeah, well, I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew what to expect a lot, but we got slammed. And
no PR bullshit here. Like, oh, it's been fantastic. The crowds have been great. Like, oh my God, we're dying.
I'm not trying to do PR.
Please help us.
Help us, please. We don't know what we're doing.
I just wanted to say,
to be fair, isn't that really? I mean, I'm sure it's hard, but isn't that a good thing?
Oh,
you have so many people that you're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And obviously, scaling is a problem, but the fact that many people are turning out is pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm not worried as far as my job now. I'm just worried about my health.
You're gonna be okay.
Well, we'll all talk about how our health is decaying in a moment.
I believe in you.
And Tom?
So I'm a freelance designer / producer. Currently work at a theme park in Osaka City.
Ooh.
Generally around like VR rides and stuff. They have those everywhere. But basically, I'm here to see a lot of the VR vendors and stuff, but mainly to help out my good friend Tina, who is the CEO.
Who's locked up in the corner.
Yes, who's locked up in the corner.
Nobody puts Tina in the corner.
The CEO of Cotton Candy Cyanide. And she's showing her game Quantum Suicide, which is pretty awesome.
No blatant advertising.
Oh, yeah, I mean, she's showing her shitty game.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. This is not going.
But yeah, I'm helping out with that, with some Japanese interpretation and stuff, because I studied Japanese when I was a bit younger and didn't have so many grey hairs.
The VR. Do you work only on the VR rides at at unnamed theme park in Osaka?
Actually no, I do other stuff like R&D and that's research and development for people that don't know what that
I think people listening to podcasts, hopefully.
I have gone 36 years wondering
well, actually, I was
what the hell that stood
I was going to
for.
say it's for Matt's benefit, really.
Good point. Fair. Very fair.
But it's mainly the VR stuff. Being from a games background and going into a theme park, it's like nowadays, like obviously theme parks are very physical spaces, but more and more it's being digitized, as you can imagine, and so people with games knowledge actually have a good chance to work there. I think that maybe they didn't have like 5-10 years ago.
Do you, since you're doing the research and development,
R&D,
that one? So I was on a ride at a theme park in Osaka. I have no idea. I have no idea if it was the same one. I have no idea. But there was a VR ride. There was like a Harry Potter VR ride. And I got on that thing, and they give you like these 3D glasses, and like the chair moves around a lot and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got so sick.
Right.
Like, and I think I'm just old and like haggard now, but like, I don't know if you work at that theme park, but whether you do or not, like, do you guys do any kind of research and development into like figuring out how to make people not sick on these rides?
Well, first of all, Matt, the Harry Potter ride isn't a VR ride, but but it is, as you rightly said.
What did you put on your face?
An interesting. So I've heard they used to have 3D goggles, and now they no longer do because of the thing you're talking about. A lot of people used to get sick on the ride.
Kidding.
Apparently,
Okay.
I hear on the grapevine, and so. Yeah, that's a definite concern. Like when you're working with rides, obviously people get sick on rides anyway, right?
Yeah.
You throw in VR on top of that, which people also get sick on. It's like It's a mess. And so when you're creating the media for these rides, you've really got to take that into account. And there's been a lot of research done. I don't know. One of the ones that comes to mind is Epic Games did a lot of research. This is years ago though, like when they were releasing Unreal 4, about obviously when. Obviously looking from a first-person perspective, any kind of up and down motion that you're not actually doing in real life really instantly makes it
Interesting. Wow.
So if you're on a roller coaster and it's doing like a drop or whatever, it needs to match that exactly. And we work with vendors actually across the globe to make sure that what you're seeing in the media is exactly in time with what the roller coaster motion is doing.
Interesting. Wow. That's
and
really cool.
that
makes
puts a lot of
sense.
limitations. Yeah, but it puts a lot of limitations on what you can and can't do. But actually, as a designer, like originally, that actually makes it far more interesting to me. Because at the end of the day, like those limitations are what really brings out the best in people. And so,
and a lot of people say that internally too, right? Limitations are what breed creativity. Right?
Yo, I know you've always told me that, and I believe you.
You sound so convincing.
But I think that's a great segue. He was talking about how he used to be a designer. Why don't we kick off the whole story of Tom's life
Well, before we... Whoa, that's just deep. And before we do that, because Mark needs to get out of here.
Again,
we're going to do Mark first? Oh.
I think he missed the meeting.
Yes, the
He was in
meeting,
the bathroom or something.
yeah.
But, no, I'm making excuses. Anyway, but before we do that, actually, let's talk a little bit about TGS and what you're doing here.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
What I'm doing here?
Yeah. Why
What about us?
Why are
What
we
about
here?
all of us? Why just me?
Okay, what am I doing here?
That's
what are we
That's for
doing
you to answer, Pete, not
Okay,
me.
well, you answered the question then. What are you doing here?
All right, so I'm here because we had all kinds of fun stuff for Devil May Cry 5 planned for TGS. So we had a nice booth here in the Capcom booth, and we had some really cool merch.
We had a booth in the booth?
We had a booth in the booth.
Oh.
And see, and we had a merch booth also as well, where we're selling like mugs and like T-shirts and like jackets, but they all sell it really fast.
Mark's taking note.
See?
They're pretty near our booth.
Yeah, you know about the Capcom booth. You know what's going down.
Borrowed their ladder.
Oh, nice. They just like let you the ladder. That's really nice of them. Man, doesn't sound like Capcom. So yeah, we had this really cool booth with like all these different games that we've had. Let's see here. We have Devil May Cry. We have Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 RE2. Is that what we call it?
Yeah, it's called Biohazard RE2.
Oh, in Japan.
In Japan, yes.
Okay.
It's called Resident Evil 2 in the rest of the world.
Okay. And then we have, let's see here, Palm 2 is, what is Palm 2 even called?
Torowaru no Parma, right? I don't know what it's called.
No
in English.
idea. It almost sounds
what it
Italian
is.
when you say it.
That is
And then, so we have that. And we have
Mega Man 11.
Yep, Mega Man 11. We have the belt scroller game.
Yeah.
What do we call that in
And
English?
what's that called in English? Something.
Side.
No, beat 'em up. Beat 'em up.
Beat 'em up. Beat 'em up. Beat 'em up collection. That looks pretty cool. I want to buy that. We have Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection.
Yeah, for the Japanese.
Yep. And we might have something else, but I'm sorry, I may have forgotten. So let's talk about Devil May Cry, the only one that matters.
Okay, so I am here because I'm actually did a few. I did a stage for RE2. We talked a little bit about the game. We showed off a new trailer, which is pretty cool.
Which one, RE2?
RE2, yeah.
Oh, good for you. You had a trailer.
You also showed a trailer. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. We had a
Remember, Matt,
trailer.
I'm on both titles, so don't act like I don't know what's going on.
You know more than I do, man.
And it's just been a lot of back and forth. I know you were doing a lot of stuff with media and this and that, and we had a lot of meetings. So we've just been busy, and the planning is really what took a lot of time too.
Oh my God, yeah. We've been busy planning all of this TGS stuff and really for all of our different events here over the last couple months, just like for months and months here, and we've been busy, right? So it's fantastic to finally get it out there and to have the booth out there. We had that Nero mannequin for Devil May Cry.
That is pretty awesome.
That was pretty sweet. That
We used the
mannequin that looks
3D
just like
data,
Carlo.
right?
Yep, the 3D data.
From the game.
Yeah, I saw that.
We put the costumes on there, the costumes that we made.
So it's like you're seeing a physical representation of the
was
game
pretty
model, which
good.
is
Right,
pretty cool.
exactly, because we're too cheap to actually pay for the models. So we made a mannequin, and then we also have the Dante jacket here. We have one more day here, so but no one's gonna hear this before the end of the trip, or the end of the TGS. So we can't.
I'll try and upload it right now
Oh man, that's
while we're
awesome.
talking.
That's a big promise to make. We'll see how that goes. And I have the game playable here for the first time in Japan. We've added a couple Devil Breakers. We've added the Punchline Devil Breaker, which is the rocket that you can ride like Back to the Future
I don't know
2.
if we need to go into this much detail.
Why not? People
We
are-
also have a demo for Resident Evil 2 where you can play as Claire or Leon.
Fair enough.
We showed off some iconic characters in the trailer, which is pretty cool.
What iconic characters?
Come on, Matt, you know who they are.
I seriously do. I literally have not been paying attention to Resident Evil. I do
Ada Wong,
not
of
know.
course. Yeah, there you go. See, Tina knows. Tina knows what's up.
See? But
She doesn't even work
she's
here.
in the corner. She has to yell across from the corner.
Help me, they keep me here.
We're actually going to get visited by the police. There's going to be a raid.
Who's this Tina? And then, okay, so Ada Wong.
Yeah.
We showed off Ada Wong. Did we show off any other iconic characters? Is it
Of
plural?
course, there's little Sherry. And
Ooh, Sherry, little Sherry.
G.
Birkin G.
No, well, he was Birkin. But
Or is that a spoiler?
no spoilers.
Is that a spoiler? Birkin
It's a
G.
game that was made a long time.
You worked on
12
it
years ago, actually. So,
Wesker?
Wesker? Was Wesker in the game? I'm pretty sure he
Wesker's hot.
Wesker was out. There you go. See? We got Wesker fans in the house. Yeah. That'd be amazing if we added
Albert.
Wesker.
you are referring to Albert, right?
If his
You
name
don't even
is
know his first name. His last name's Wesker. But anyway.
Maybe she's talking about Alex Wesker. You know about Alex Wesker, Tom, because you worked on Resident Evil Revelations too.
Yeah, I guess I did.
Well, we'll
say
get to
yes.
that.
Called something else at the time. But
So you guys have already gone through what you're doing at TGS. So Matt jumped the. No, we're done with you. Matt jumped the gun a little bit, and he wanted to talk about their stories. But obviously, this podcast is to talk about creators and their stories. And you guys, I think, have a storied past in a good way. Well, maybe you have some dark secrets in the closet that I don't know about. But so let's start with. Not Mark, because Mark has to leave. So we'll start with Tom. No, Mark. Yeah, Mark, go ahead. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how did you even land? Well, first of all, was Capcom your first job in the industry?
Well, I think so. If you don't count freelance. All right, so yeah.
Well, let's count freelance.
I always wanted to be in the industry, and I thought, hey, I better get some experience. So I worked for 8-4, the localization company.
Did you really?
Yeah,
You did freelance for them?
freelance for 8-4.
We were just on their podcast.
I honestly did not know that.
Cool. Yeah, so I did freelance for them for a couple years, and
A couple years?
yeah, I mean it's on and off. It's freelance.
I'm serious. I did not know this. Like,
Well, does the time length matter? Like you didn't know it regardless.
So,
that's true. What games did you work on when you were at A4?
like Glory of.
Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah.
Whatever.
Glory of not Hercules, but the other word for Hercules. I can never remember Heracles or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
A ballerina game.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Very notable titles.
Yeah.
Was it a Japanese ballerina
White Knight
game?
Chronicles.
White Knight Chronicles. Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a Japanese ballerina game?
Yeah.
Was it on DS? Like, what system was it?
Yeah. It was. I think it was DS. Yeah.
And
I know that.
See?
is it about doing ballet, or is it like a platformer where you're a ballerina?
You're a
or
girl.
like-
You're doing ballet.
maybe it's a fighting
You
game.
go through your life like a little bit. I can't remember exactly.
Really?
But it was really interesting to do.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was surprised how interesting it was to do.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, so after I did that, I'm like, all right, let's try to apply for some companies. So I went for Nintendo a couple times, didn't get in, and and I was like,
And you're like, fuck it. I guess I'll just go with Capcom.
Well, Nintendo said no. I guess we'll do the other one.
I was a Nintendo person, and I had a friend from college named John Earhart, and I messaged him out of the blue, just like, hey man, what's up? What's going on? And he was like, oh, working at Capcom. And I thought, hey,
I want to do that.
That's the game industry. Hey, I want to get into that. I want to get.
You already in the game industry. You fucking worked for 8-4, dude.
I didn't feel like it. I mean, I was like,
Right, he was outside in a
freelance, I
way,
was at
right?
home.
It was a stepping stone for you, I guess, right?
Yeah, so he was like, I asked, is there any openings? He said, well, yeah, we do. I'll get you an interview, or not get me one, but send your resume, and then maybe you'll get an interview. And I was like, okay, great. So I did, and then I got in.
Because you wanted to be internal, right? You didn't want to pursue a freelance path.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in freelance forever.
Right.
So then, and then I worked, started, as a translator starts, translating things.
A localizer. You were a localizer.
Yeah.
You were a localizer. You were localizing things.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Well, there is a difference. What's the difference?
Translator and a localizer?
Yeah.
Translator, you don't care who's getting the words. You just want to take words and put them into other words, basically. That's a translator does.
Words.
Put them in other
There you go.
words.
Translator.
Localizer.
Words.
You're putting those words into other words, but you're thinking about it a little bit more.
And there you go. You were going to get hate mail from a ton of translators.
I know, right?
What?
I know, right?
That sounds right to me. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's the beer, but. I'm okay. I better.
It's
not
my
make
influence. I'm
excuses.
sorry. It's my fault. I'm the one that has been
I'll try not to make
pulling his
excuses
strings.
anymore.
okay.
Yeah. So, and then I had the opportunity to work on RE7 as a localization director.
But you worked on stuff before. Hold on. You worked on stuff before that, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I worked on lots.
You
of
didn't
stuff, but I
get
was
to
just-
Capcom and then
I was
wait
like
5 years and all of a sudden I'm going to work on Resident Evil 7.
Oh yeah. Well, I worked for for 3 or 4 or 5 years. No, maybe 3 years, and then I was just on random
Well,
stuff.
let's start with the first project. What was your first project at Capcom?
Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
I checked some character dialogue quote. What are they? Fight quotes.
Okay.
For some characters
Win quotes,
for
right?
for Andrew, and I checked them. I was really stupid. I was like, I checked this thing, and he wrote one of the characters like Yoda, and
Really?
yeah, and I was like, is this character Yoda? And I changed some things, and I was like, I didn't think to check with him. I was so stupid.
The grammar was written in a similar way.
Yeah, I was like,
order.
it's messed up, and I changed some things, but he was like, no, I meant to do that.
It's
I was like,
supposed to be like that.
All right, I see now. I'm sorry. I'll check. I'm sorry.
Yoda was Yoda in Street Fighter Cross Tekken?
No. Let's not get
Did we have a
Disney
Star Wars
involved.
collab?
No, there's no mention of Yoda anywhere.
Which character was it?
I just say Yoda because it just kind of sounded like that to me. I was just
Right. You were saying the
but
grammar.
it was a
structure.
conscious decision. And I was
Which,
like, I'm sorry.
which character was it? Nina?
I forget his name.
It's not Nina.
I'm not a cross Tekken person. I'm not a Tekken person, so it was a Tekken character.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Jack.
But
Was it
anyway,
Jack?
so that was my first. And I realized how.
Just throwing out random names. There is a Jack though.
Lei Fu Wong.
I realized.
Yoshimitsu.
That was it.
Yes, winner.
Was it really Yoshimitsu?
Yeah.
But
Oh my god.
I think they actually write him that way.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
think so. To be honest, I'm
Yeah.
not really sure.
That was my first big mistake at Capcom.
It's kind of like an
But,
alien thing that doesn't have any
Samurai.
permanent background,
Right,
so it's
yeah.
kind of up in the air.
Yeah,
Just like Yoda.
Yeah, so eventually I was given the.
There is no
opportunity-
connection to Yoda. I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah.
You're looking for.
Yes.
This is not the character you're
That's
looking
how it sounded to me. That's all I'm saying. That's
Okay.
all I'm saying.
All right, sure.
And then eventually I got the opportunity to be a localization director, which is a little bit of step up from localizer.
So when you were working on Street Fighter Cross Tekken, you were literally credited as a translator then?
Editor.
Editor, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see.
Most of the translation happens externally, right?
Yeah. Since I was there, a lot of external translation,
And then it's
right.
polished internally. A lot of editing happens.
Yeah.
Make it fit the game. And we've gone through. If you can look at or go ahead and listen to some of our earlier episodes, you can hear more about localization. Little plug right there.
Did we talk about localization?
Yeah, on the first podcast.
Who did we talk about localization with?
Miguel
I block everything with him out. I don't.
and David.
Oh yeah, David.
David, nice.
Yeah,
so-
but you were also an integral part of integrating localization tools because you have a programming background.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
So
right.
don't sell yourself short, man. Come on,
that's
this is your
right. I totally
chance.
forgot about
you
that.
Totally forgot.
I totally forgot that I could program. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I worked alongside the now also ex-Capcom Fede.
Oh yeah.
I can't pronounce his last name because he's Spanish.
Suare, I think.
Okay, Suare.
Ooh.
I gotta say sorry to Fede.
Rico.
Suave.
Yeah. But he was the localization engineer for a bit there, and I would help him with tools and stuff, and then I helped with external tools and getting them implemented with our workflow
Engines
and things
as
like
well,
that.
right?
Yeah, with the engine and everything like that. So yeah, I guess
Yeah,
I did
you
that.
helped to establish pipelines as well.
That's right.
Yeah,
you really
yeah.
did. I mean, he established the pipeline for X-Lock, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Right?
Yeah, X-Lock. Yeah, that was.
And now that's something we do throughout all of our localization projects, as far
That's
as I'm
awesome.
aware.
Yep, and it's customized in many ways thanks to the internal teams and yourself.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
I am selling you.
Awesome, thanks.
I guess that's
Mark.
my job.
Good job, Mark. I think Fan Gamer would like to talk to you about a job.
So, aren't you the president?
Yeah.
He's also a client.
I don't do any more translation. Well, yeah.
You worked on Street Fighter Cross Tekken. What was after that?
I don't remember.
Title-wise.
but
Okay.
I did Revelations 2.
Oh yeah, you worked on Rev 2.
Dark Side Chronicles. Everything HD that had to do with HD. Okami HD, JoJo HD. I think that was all the HDs. There might be more, but yeah. I was the HD guy. Which was kind of hard because they're games that exist.
Right.
And if something changes, people are like, what, that changed? Or something, That's kind of weird pressure a little bit.
So, okay, you get in, you make your way up the ladder, you get to become a localization director. What did that entail?
Localization director?
For you specifically, because you were a major part. You were part of the team.
What team?
Oh, right, yeah. So,
Sorry, 17.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, at Capcom I'm sure there's different. So at Capcom, it's very integrated. Localization director. You're not just sitting somewhere else away from the dev team. You're in with the dev team. You're sitting next to all the designers, whatever, planners, whatever, and depending on team, they'll give you free reign or not free reign, but you get to put your input in. You get to be like, hey, this is kind of weird. Can we change this? And you just go right up to people and talk to them. It's like I went around to the art department and sound. It's like you can work. I mean, localization doesn't have to stop at text. It's just you go art, sound, everything basically.
Well, you were also fortunate because RE7 was one of the titles where it wasn't just, it actually wasn't a translation, right? You were actually writing some of the dialogue. You were working with our external writer as well.
Right.
Richard Piercy. What, am I reminding you? Like, you sound like, oh yeah, that happened.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to sound that way, but yeah. Oh yeah, that was like one of the most awesome things about RE7. It's just that the dev team, they were so great. They were like, all right, we want this English to be awesome, you know? And so they just gave me and Richard freedom to just write the English. And even if the Japanese, even for things like, so when I say write the English, I mean,
well, you wrote the text.
Dialogue.
It wasn't, you were writing dialogue. There was no Japanese. It was
Richard.
It was English to start.
It started as English.
Richard Piercy was the writer. I
Piercy
mentioned
was
that
the
already.
writer,
You weren't
yeah.
paying attention.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so Richard, he was the official writer, and whatever he couldn't have time to do because lots of things in the game changed, here and there, and so I have to pick up the slack. So I was able to write things for actual dialogue in the game that was voiced, and I felt, wow, this is great, this is awesome, what an opportunity. And but yeah, so we were able to do that, and even text that was just like let's say there was a note, like an item description even.
Right.
I could suggest, hey, can we change this item? I think this would sound better if we write it like this way. And then the Japanese would change the item description depending on English, and that was really great. I mean, the team was really amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
But then you left. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's funny,
finished
isn't
it
it?
off.
Like we're talking about how that's like a rarity. It just there's probably a few listeners that aren't in the industry and maybe are listening to this. I don't know. It's just funny to me how that you're saying like that's awesome. Like it's a rare case, and I think it is a rare case, isn't it? That localization is that involved in the development cycle, but it should be that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you might not even be able to call it localization anymore. You're just a designer
Exactly.
of the game. Even
Exactly.
Right.
It might even go that far. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're called a loc director. And
Yeah,
not,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. A localizer, as I always hated that word.
And you guys had to work pretty hard to actually get that structure set up too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my job has always been, getting pipelines established, getting, being the internal politician and also getting things done.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I'm a producer now.
When did that happen? When did it actually, I'm curious about when were you guys first successful in like changing the structure from, because I'm assuming, I never worked in Loc, so I don't know, but I'm assuming that like it was kind of this more
you
of this,
sat
like,
next to them.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to ignore those people. It seems to me, or I assume that it was that for a while you would have basically the dev team would make the game and then they would throw a bunch of text at the Loc team and go, all right, translate this.
Well, I don't want to go too deep into localization because it's more about these guys this time. But I think what happened back in the day was you had longer times for getting a game done. And what would happen was you'd have a game completed in Japanese and actually released.
Right. Before
and then right before that happens, like basically the game's done and it's mastered up. It's shipped, right? It's got the gold is out and it's ready to go. That's when Loc starts. So they've started familiarizing themselves with the game because the game's done.
Yeah.
So I won't say it was easier because there were a lot more challenges back then, but the game was done. So it was easier in the sense that you knew what the context.
Right.
Now it's sim dev.
Yeah.
So these guys are making the game right alongside the dev team members, which is why they're now dev. And when that change started to occur, like it was always about how do we make this faster? How do we do more cost effective? Well, here's the plan. And so that's what we did. It made sense. And we got better quality out of it, and we got things done faster, and we got things done at a better cost, and it was more efficient. So who doesn't love that?
So you're saying it's better, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, Tom. That's what I heard.
Sounds like a condom advert.
I heard that too.
Okay. Right on. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So then, and then wait. So you made R7.
Yep.
Yeah, by himself.
And
he built the whole game.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
I wasn't on it.
That was a great note to end on. And soon after RE7 was completely over, then I left Capcom. But
So that was like your way of like doing a mic drop.
But,
You were like doing a mic drop. You're like, I did RE7, bam,
yeah,
and then you just
it
walked
felt
out.
good, yeah. But then technically, the last game I worked on was Devil May Cry 5, though.
You worked on DMC5, really?
I actually translated like a bunch of stuff for it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not
Are you in the credits?
But
I should see if you're in the credits.
I think it's a little too late now.
If not, that'd be kind of crappy.
I probably am, but because I did a lot of, I feel like it was a lot of text, but I mean, yeah, that was my last game.
At Capcom.
Yeah.
Right on. And
Just
then,
as a normal, just helping out kind of person. Yeah.
so you decided to do the mic drop on RE7.
Yeah.
while in the background also kind of helping people on DMC5 because you're just that nice.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, I'm going to go work for Fangamer. I'm not going to just
Yeah, how did
work for
that even
them.
come about?
I'm going to be the president and also a client.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Does anyone
Yeah, so-
get that reference?
It's a commercial.
That doesn't help.
No, it doesn't at
It's
all.
Hair Club for Men. If
Hair Club for Men,
Look
that's
that
right.
up.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
Fangamer came about because originally my wife wanted to move back to her hometown and
Which is where?
Aichi Prefecture. And I said, okay, let's do it. I'm going to make the sacrifice. I'm going to leave Capcom. We're going to go to Aichi.
Wait, you didn't want to leave?
I
Was it
didn't want to
sacrifice?
leave. I loved Capcom. Capcom was great. And then, I'll do freelance. I'm kind of scared to do freelance, but I'm trying to make it work. But just in case, I sent some emails out to some people, like a friend of mine who's the actual CEO of Fangamer America. That's not the official title, but he's a friend of mine, and I said, and I've helped him out before with stuff, and I said, hey, if you need any help with anything, let me know. I'm planning on quitting Capcom, and he emailed me back and saying, hey, wow, this is great timing. We really want to do something in Japan. Can you run it? And I'm like, yeah.
That's really
Sure.
cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then you guys have... and then have we already talked about what Fangamer is specifically?
No, I think we should talk a little bit about
I
that.
mentioned it briefly, but yeah, just game merchandise selling online, and that's
So
pretty much
how does
what it
that
is.
work? You ask for a corporate IP license, and then they give that to you, and then you guys print shirts or merchandise? How does that work?
It's mostly people coming to us and
Okay.
asking us, you want to do something? And then we say yes or no.
And what are some of the things you can do?
Anything, just whatever the...
So I can ask you to paint an elephant red and walk around the streets of
actually,
New York.
very flexible we don't just do here's the set type. We only do shirts, pins, and badges.
Right.
There's nothing like that.
So any type of merchandise. Right?
Oh yeah, if you can think of it, we can do it as long as it ends up being cost effective. It's
But how does that work? Do you have an outsourcing company that you work with, let's say in India or China that
we
actually
have some-
manufactures?
Yeah, there's some manufacturers in China we have, and then some people just in the States that we have make some stuff for. I think most of the shirts are made in the States. Yeah,
Nice.
but
Nice. Made in the USA.
Yeah, pins are from China. A lot of the plushes are from China. I can't think of anything else, but yeah.
Actually, I'm actually personally interested in this, hopefully the audience is too, but can you tell us how that process works? How does licensing work? How do you go about getting a deal? I come to you and I say, hey, we're thinking about making a cool object for Devil May Cry or Resident Evil. Here's the plan. Make it for us.
We don't usually do it that way. It's usually very more collaborative. You don't tell us to make stuff. We decide on, we have to be happy
You tell
about
us
it
what to
too.
do.
No. We have to be...
You don't tell us what we make. We'll tell you what we're making.
It's we have to be on board, Because we don't
Sure.
want to make anything that we're not cool with,
Of course.
We're not
Of course.
cool with doing this. We don't want to,
And you're talking about from a quality perspective,
Yeah,
right?
quality
Yeah.
and just the Fangamer brand.
Right.
Basically, we don't do this kind of stuff. It's kind of weird, or something. If something like that is
How do you make
proposed.
How do you make that decision?
It's very casual. The whole company is. The company has about 20 to 30 people, and
Worldwide.
There's a Tucson, Arizona, and then there's Japan, and basically, anyone in the company, they just all talk about it. They're like, hey. Even someone just from the mailroom, they'd be like, hey, I have an idea for a cool product. Hey, let's hear it. All right. Oh, that sounds great. Let's do it. Yeah. Who's going to design it? Oh, I want to do it. Okay. It's just very casual,
So have you ever been to the mothership in Tucson?
Oh, yep.
Wow, what's that like?
Hot.
Hot, sexy hot? Or
It sounded like
hot?
very hot. Tucson, Arizona,
baby.
dry heat. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But yeah, they got a good place going down there, and then they're expanding more and more as the years go.
So do you pitch companies then? Do you have an idea and then
never-
you come to, let's say, us and say, hey, Capcom, we've got this really cool idea for Resident Evil t-shirt.
Yeah, that happens a little bit, too. I think it just goes both ways. It's very casual. It's we want to do something. If the client has an idea already, we hear it, and then we give our ideas too, and then just whoever says something first, basically. It's I have an idea. Okay.
Well, judging by the lines I saw today,
Oh
you
my
have a
God.
pretty
The
good
lines are
following.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm curious. So what's been like? Okay, first of all, let's talk about what have you been selling at the booth here, because the lines are insane.
The big ticket item is Undertale.
Undertale, game. You're selling the game. You're selling some T-shirts.
We sell the game online, but merch at TGS we just have merch right now. Yeah. So yeah, that's a big.
And Undertale
game.
just came out here, so I think on the Switch that is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's maybe one of the reasons why it's getting such a big push for you.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Yeah, indie games. We do a lot of indie games, but we also do other bigger companies like SNK.
Ooh.
And we also do
Wait,
Capcom.
no.
We do okay.
Shin Nippon Kikaku. What?
Yeah, we do Capcom, but we don't have the Capcom Japan license. So
so
we
you
just
only do
do
it-
it only in America.
So via
What kind of stuff?
USA,
What
yeah.
kind of? So first of all, what kind of SNK merchandise do you make?
Like, we just came out with the Neo Geo system pin badges. They're pretty cool. It's
Cool.
just pin badges of Neo Geo shape and stuff.
How much does that cost?
God, I can't believe I can't remember. A little over 2,000 yen.
Okay,
Which is
it's like a
about
set of
$20, right?
pins.
Yeah, about 20 yen.
Little
It's a
less
set
than
of like
$20.
lapel pins or something.
Yeah, it's like 3 pins. Yeah.
Okay. I think for what kind of stuff are you doing for Capcom that's not Capcom Japan?
Actually, I can't remember right away if I can say.
Thanks. Here's the SNK thing.
But Capcom, I don't know.
He's
To
really
be fair,
sure
he's
if I
not
can
in
say
charge.
well. He's
not in
also
charge
he's
of the
also
US
tried to
side.
block out all
probably
the
okay,
memories
but
of
I can't-
And it's his
Capcom.
ex, so it's some
Fair enough.
painful memories.
And actually, one thing that I think you should mention too is that a lot of your free time goes to not only working on games that you're passionate about, but you also design music.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you've left out all of this interesting stuff.
Oh yeah, you were famous on the internet for a hot minute because of music.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
you were featured on in articles.
You were featured on all kinds of stuff. man.
Oh.
Man, you don't remember anything about yourself.
Oh, no. I don't consider that, like, popular. Like, I mean, yeah, I had a Kickstarter for an album that was retro gaming music made in the style of Super Nintendo sounds, But yeah, I did that. I liked music.
That was amazing. You're like, yeah, I want to hear more Super Nintendo music, so I'm just going to start making Super Nintendo music.
Yeah, I felt like maybe I could do it, and I tried a couple songs, and I'm like, yeah, this sounds
What
like
did you
it
do
could
for
be.
a soundboard? Did you build your own soundboard? Did you use some
There's
emulated software?
There's some sound fonts you can
Sound- okay.
download. It just has the sampled sounds on it that you can use easily. And so I just used that.
Just
And,
made that like. And you, do you have like a music background or something?
Not like as in
Not
study.
formally,
Not
right.
formally, yeah. I mean, I took piano lessons until I was whatever, I don't know, middle school or something like that.
Okay.
That's about it. I mean, I just like music, and I just try to be good at it as much as I can by doing it a lot.
And how many people ended up buying your Super Nintendo music CD?
Not that many, just like 200-300 people.
Okay.
It's not. It was a small Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
still pretty
do-
cool. Like you have a bit of an what I would call an eccentric personality, but you're also kind of a deep thinker in a way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you
very much
think
so.
of things in a very different perspective. There's actually a Twitter handle. What is it called? Shit Mark says.
Shit, Mark says that's what Marco made that.
Yes, but I won't say what the actual handle is.
We just said it. It's Shit, Mark says.
No. There's actually a few shit Mark says on Twitter.
Oh, there's more than
Really?
one.
Yeah,
Seriously?
so you get some. They'll have to just find it. Because if you look at that Twitter, you'll think I'm a racist, sexist asshole. Because I'm not. It's just like,
No,
now that I say
no.
that, people are going to think I am. But like, it's
Actually,
just so weird.
I didn't realize that actually.
Oh, it's weird because everyone takes everything I say out of context and they
Right.
put it on Twitter.
Because there's
and
no
they're my
context
friends.
for what you say. That's
I
the
know.
beauty of
And
it.
they're my friends, and it's funny because it's like, it's just like joking around. It's like, oh, and then they put it on Twitter, and it's like, if someone sees this, they may get the wrong idea,
Yes, very much so. So if you look for Shit Mark says, please understand that Mark just says the most random shit.
Yeah,
And that is why Marco made the Shit Mark says
Right.
Twitter account. We were all very depressed.
And you
by
can
that.
send all the hate mail to him because I didn't realize that.
yeah, Marco will get all that. Yeah, because
There you go. Marco, Mr. Monster Hunter.
But yeah, no, Mark, you're such a demure, nice guy. It's,
So demure.
Yeah,
that's good to hear. I like to be thought of in the positive
but you're also
way.
weird, but in a good way.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true too. But cool. Well, I know you got to run, so if you have anything
Yeah.
else you want to add, or
No.
And there it is.
That's my story.
There's the Mark I love.
Sticking to it. Yep.
We missed that, Mark. We
Thanks for
really
having
will.
me on, though. This is
Yeah, no,
pretty
cool. Yeah, I'm glad to have you. It's all, again, we're trying to celebrate devs at Capcom, and hopefully we can continue to
Or
do so.
devs that used to be at Capcom. In the case of this episode, Pete,
This special episode.
special episode,
Special secret. Wait, it's not a secret.
special secret.
Yeah.
Super secret. Up R, down L, Y, B. Accept.
Nice.
Yeah, so
That's the Capcom code. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Mark.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Are you gonna leave now? Are you just gonna leave us?
Yeah, I really do have to leave.
Mark's got to actually go work. All right. Well, Mark's now taking his leave, so we have some time to speak a little bit to Tom. Finally,
We could
Mark's taking up all his
finally
time.
speak to Tom.
You just want to hear his voice.
I just want to hear that accent.
Matt does love it.
Oh, I love the British accents. There's
I
a couple
remember the
different
amount of
times.
times you've impersonated it, in fact.
Oh
It's
man,
quite
no,
good.
I was
Give
never.
everyone a little bit.
Mike did your accent.
Mike did do it.
I can't. I don't.
Give him a little taste.
I
Come on,
can't
you-
do it. All I can do is I've been doing this in Capcom Europe all week because they've been here for TGS, and there's just 3 words that I say with my British accent. I just
Right
say,
then.
So right, yeah, cheers, right.
Freshen you drink, governor.
See, exactly.
much better.
That's Martina's much
and you've
better
been
than me.
practicing for years. Exactly. You have no excuse.
It's true. It's very true. I like to think that the Australians have a special bond where they just know how to do the British accent. I'm an idiot, aren't I?
We love our motherland.
Yeah, they're
There you
still
go.
part of the
We
Queen's
love the
territory,
Queen.
so
We love the
whatever.
monarch.
Who doesn't love the
more
Queen?
than we do. So
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
That's true.
Canada's
Everybody
still
loves the Queen.
Commonwealth. Like, what's going
Yes,
on?
yeah.
What's going on, people?
It means they're cool. Okay,
Is
all
that-
the cool kids
we're-
are in the
We're
Commonwealth.
the outsiders.
All right.
Well, so I have to say the line now. So, what's your deal?
Oh, finally.
thank you for your waking on that.
I know.
I'm waiting
everyone's
40 minutes for
waiting.
that.
Yeah. So basically, I think having listened to Mark, I think I'll do a really high level, like overarching thing. and then
No,
we can go into
I want to hear
details.
the beginning. So, you were born in a small town in where?
In was it Red Hill, United Kingdom?
Okay. Red Hill, United Kingdom.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks after I was born, we moved house into the middle of nowhere. So
The
that's
middle
why
of
I'm so
nowhere.
weird.
The middle of nowhere, United Kingdom. So, what's that like?
It's pretty cool, actually. Like, I grew up, got a pretty big family, 4 brothers and sisters, and we used to like hit each other with sticks and
Did you?
and pretend we were like,
Please tell me this is real, isn't it?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
pretend
good.
We were like
But I used to do that too.
goblins and
What the hell are you talking
dragons
about?
and
Weird.
You never
shit
did that with your brother?
Beat him with sticks? No.
Yeah, I used to pretend like it was like Legend of Zelda or
Exactly,
something.
yeah.
Like run around and then if he hit me in my hand or somewhere like on my
Yeah.
face, I'd freak
You'd
out.
Exactly, then
Yeah.
it just ended.
And then it ended because it got really violent.
Exactly, yeah.
How many?
Someone starts crying, it's all over. Like, but yeah, it's that's kind of how I grew up, and like in that way, I was kind of developing games from a very young age with like for my brothers and sisters, and
By playing with
making up
sticks.
shit that like by
Okay.
playing with sticks.
Fair
Yeah,
enough,
but
fair
you got to make rules, right? Because
Yeah,
no
yeah.
game is any fun if you don't have any kind
Right,
of like
right.
framework to work within.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of, someone would be almost like the dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons, where you're kind of like working out what's going on, and then they'd go through the story that you kind of make. Not really realizing you were making any kind of story or design, but technically it's the same kind of thing, right? That's what game designers do. They
Yeah.
figure out like a story and a path that a player's going to go, and hope that, to God, that player sticks on that path and doesn't try and do something else. But basically, yeah, that's kind of where I started, and I'll kind of skip a whole bunch, but did Japanese at university.
That is skipping a lot.
Yeah, but
I was born in Red Hill, Japanese University.
I feel like the other stuff is boring, so I'll just leave that. But basically from there, I was like, I didn't really want to be a translator or interpreter, so I was
Right.
like, okay, what do I really want to do with my life? And I was really into video
Play with
games.
sticks.
You what?
Apparently.
Play with sticks.
Play with sticks. That is actually what I wanted to do, but I didn't figure I could make much money out of doing that. So
Fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
was like, okay, what can I make money out of, and what do I want to do? And video games have always been like, anime, stuff like that. I was a bit of an otaku, I'll say it. I mean, most of us probably were. That's probably why we came to Japan in the first
Speak
place.
for yourself.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Mr.
Hide it, Pete.
Mr.
You all know
I,
it's true.
Mr. I met Miguel Cordy in college because I had a Dragon Ball poster.
No, that's actually not true. That's incorrect. Miguel Cordy knocked on my door at 10 a.m., which is extremely early for college,
Absolutely.
because I drew a picture of Vegeta on my door.
That's kind of even worse.
Okay, so
At least he drew the hot one.
Yeah,
Fair.
Every,
Thank you.
Every girl wants to be with Vegeta.
of course. And I wanted to be Vegeta, so we're good.
Okay, so yeah, basically what all nerds is what we're getting to. And so yeah, I did. I went to Japan to study video games, in fact. And actually, for anyone listening that wants to get into video games, I would say I have the ultimate cheat.
Ooh.
Anyone can get into the video games industry.
Cheat mode. Up, R, down, L, Y, B. Okay. Was it?
It was close enough. Basically, come to Japan, go to a vocational school in Japan, and basically from that get a job in the games industry, because most Japanese, you guys will know this, and Capcom does it, right? You have the Shinryu Shain,
Right.
which is basically like new employee quota
New
that
graduates.
most big companies have to fill. And they have to fill, between like 10 to 100 people every single year. Whether those people are actually kind of have the aptitude or not, they have to fill this quota of new employees to bring into their company. And if a number of these companies are doing this, and you're someone that actually worked relatively hard at one of these vocational schools or a university, you're pretty likely to get a job. And so if you're young enough and you go to one of these schools, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get a job. That's exactly what I did. I didn't know at the time that was kind of the route that I should take, but
That's
I
really cool.
realized later that yeah.
That sounds like a lot of commitment, though. So your answer to getting in the game industry is
Work really hard.
get into a Japanese university,
Right.
spend 3 or 4 years.
Okay. No, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Right.
But no, because vocational schools are where it's at. Because you see, these places, you don't need to get into a vocational school. If
Right.
you have the money,
Yeah,
you get in.
So just be born rich. And
No,
just-
that too.
Oh, you're
Work-
rich?
I wish. No, work hard. Work hard. I mean, that goes for
Okay.
anything, right?
Right.
You got to work hard. So I would fucking work nights, like going to a convenience store, working until from like 10 p.m. to the next 9 a.m. And then I'd
kidding.
go to school afterwards. But no one cares about your grades.
But
It's whether
wait a
you
minute,
just-
wait a minute. I'm going to stop you for a moment.
Yeah.
You said this is the easy path. Basically, you're working nonstop. You're
Okay.
constantly going to
Pete,
school.
you have a
and
very-
you spent a shit ton of money.
You have a very good point. You have a very good point. I chose my words very wrongly. It's not
You
easy.
want to get in? It's super
just,
easy.
It's just almost guaranteed. Okay.
Okay, but
So it's not easy,
Oh,
but
also to that
Okay.
point, then I mean, we do have technical schools even in the States that guarantee employment afterwards. There's something like that as
Okay,
well.
okay.
So it's kind of a similar system, I think, is what.
But
you
okay,
described.
well, that's interesting.
'Cause you
I don't
come
know,
out with
'cause
a
in
skill,
the UK
right?
we don't really have that. And actually, when I was in the UK, I was like, how do I get into the games industry? And there are universities, or there were universities that did, courses in games. But at the end of the day, they couldn't guarantee you a job.
Right,
But,
nowhere is 100%. Right,
Right,
It'll
right,
be
but-
like 80% of our staff or our students will end up in this role. Or
Right,
something
right.
Like
But
that.
Japan has like massively high rates. Like, a lot of schools will boast that they have 100% rate,
Right.
which obviously, isn't always true. But the point is, as I was saying earlier, like you have this system that requires they take people in their first year. And so as long as you're below like the age of 27 or something like that, you can apply in that way. And it's such an easy way to get in, at
I
the
think
starting
you're not.
level.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit, though.
I think
Like,
he's giving himself plenty of credit.
Thanks, Matt.
you clearly work really hard.
I did work hard, yeah. But that's the point is, like, a lot of the students there are there because they didn't have anything else to do. I'd already gone to university, and I was like,
I had nothing better to do, so I'm just going to work
no,
hard.
seriously, like, it's like I don't want to go to university, and so the parents are like, okay, well, I need my kid to do something, and they keep drawing pictures, so maybe I'll send them to this school where they can make money out of drawing this picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, to be really cynical, that's kind of the way I saw it. But anyway, like, if you're dedicated to actually trying to get into the games industry and you want to work in Japan, I would definitely recommend that.
There you go.
Anyway, back to my story, as boring as it is. Basically, I finished that school, and at that point, I was like, okay, Nintendo and Capcom seem to be fairly good choices
Right.
because they were, companies with a long history, made some really quality games, and I really wanted to learn how to make quality games. That was my goal. I went to both of I can't really think of the word in English, but they have these things in Japan where you
Seminars,
go.
right?
The seminars, basically, yeah, where they kind of.
What
tell
was
you
the
what company's
Japanese
about.
word? Because if it was seminar,
Sesame is stupid.
okay,
It literally like explanation meeting, which is actually exactly what it was for Nintendo.
Right.
the
Because it was
explanation
very it was pretty cool. You had Iwata-san stand up on stage and talk
Iwata-san.
to everyone. Yeah,
That's
that
really
was
cool.
there. Yeah,
That's
actually
pretty
got
awesome.
to talk to not talk to Iwata-san, but get him to talk to me, and then and then you do like group work, but everyone would be wearing a suit. It was very kind of
Right.
rigid.
Right.
I was just like, this is not the place for me. Now you go to Capcom, and it's like the complete opposite. No one's wearing a suit. Everyone's just like, just go and do the thing.
It's not Iwata-san. It's like,
It's no one. Let's face it. There wasn't really anyone doing anything.
It's the janitor.
Well,
the janitor's like, I don't know. This guy. They told
it's
me
really
to do
cool.
this.
From what I-
Like
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you basically, I went as an artist, and I was lucky enough actually at school to have someone ex-Capcom. He was the guy that did the character design for Ace Attorney,
Oh, cool.
Iwamoto-san. So he was
Wow,
my
okay.
teacher at this school.
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
That's another thing about, that's why I, again, recommend these vocational schools in Japan. They have a lot of kind of, people
Right,
that
a
have
lot
left
of people who have
companies.
retired,
Yeah,
or
exactly, or-
let's say moved on from actually
Yeah.
developing, but
And now they want to, and they'll teach part time, and
Yeah.
it's really cool. So anyway, I had like this coaching for the Capcom test, as it were. So I
Right.
kind of knew what was going to come up, and so I'd already studied for that. And so
What was it? What was on the Capcom test?
No, don't give out the secret.
Why?
I
if people,
think, if you,
I'm
if you
sure
go
it's
through, you can
changed
pretty
by
fine.
now. Yeah.
Probably not. Probably it's the same all the time.
It is
But it's
Capcom.
like drawing people in poses and then doing like an illustration within an hour. It's the kind of like the
Oh,
overview.
right.
But because you know what Capcom was like. A lot of it is like action games.
Yeah, sure.
And so you had to be really good at maybe not understanding fully like the human anatomy, but to some extent be able to draw people in different poses and stuff like that.
Right.
Interesting.
Because whether it's actually a game that's based on humans or humanoids, at the end of the day, you're going to need that knowledge.
yeah.
Sure.
And so anyway, got into Capcom and did Capcom. Then after that, did 17-bit, and then after that went into theme parks.
Well,
that's
you
why-
just
Whoa.
And after I like that, the boom, and now
This is
now,
all right. I can. If we're gonna jump from Red Hill to Japan, okay, fine. But the hell, I am. If I am gonna let you skip over all of the stuff at Capcom and 17-bit.
man.
So let's start from the beginning. So you get into Capcom, and what's
Yes.
the first thing you work on?
The first thing I do.
No, actually, I'd love to hear from you because you actually went in. You're Capcom proper, as we like to say. Right?
Oh, 'cause he's Shinsozu, yeah, 'cause he got in first year.
You're not polluted by anywhere else. You're just
Right.
you're just fresh. And
Yeah,
you
no,
come in as-
absolutely.
right?
It was my first job in the industry. I'd done some like animation stuff when I was at university, but in the games industry, Capcom was my first job.
So what was that like? You come in the first day. What's
It was pretty awesome, to be honest, because what they do at Capcom, which I still really respect, and I hope they still continue, I'm pretty sure they have, is that everyone that's a new employee in the system I was talking about, they get weeks, if not months, of training.
Okay.
Which is great, I think. Like having been at multiple companies, like training is so important. If you want someone
Right.
to succeed in the company and the culture that we've created,
Yeah.
you have to teach
Yeah,
that person,
sure.
like, what is the culture here?
Right.
What do we do? And what do we expect of you? And so Capcom had a really rigorous training, how to put it right, yeah.
program?
The Kenshu, baby. You did the Kenshu.
Kenshu. Yeah.
That's what that's what it is.
Shinsetsu Kenshu.
So
And that involved, as an artist, that involved doing a week in lots of different disciplines, whether it's
Okay.
background, character design, visual effects, events, and stuff like that. And you'd have a different teacher that was actually, I didn't really know at the time, but very famous,
Right.
teachers. That
One of the
people-
legacy.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
some definitely.
And so really,
The talent.
really top level people
Yeah.
teaching you this stuff pretty harshly as well, and that was good too. Do you know what I mean? It really kind of made you realize, and as an ex-student, as it were, it's like I'm really kind of shit.
I know.
And, like, I need to work pretty hard in order to actually get good.
I know you like it harsh, baby.
You don't have to get that close to the mic.
No. Or me.
It's really just Tom. Tom. The mic is whatever, but Tom.
But anyway, so we did this training, and then at the end of the training, we were actually given the opportunity to make a game. And that was just the newbies, as it were.
I
so
remember
the people,
this.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was not happy with how it went, first of all, because we had to make 2 games, and all of the game designers, which they call planners in Japan, so I guess I'll call them planners from now on. I have different issues with that, which I can bring up. in a different
Ooh, I want
podcast
to talk
maybe.
about that.
But basically, yeah, like the planners were only allowed to work on these games 2 days a week.
Huh.
And that really sucked, because what it meant is, you'd do something on the Monday, and then you'd have a meeting on the Tuesday with the planners there. They'd be kind of basically the directors, and they'd be telling you
Right.
kind of which direction the game would be going. And then you do another couple of days of work, and they come back on the Friday and be like, no, this is wrong. Like, this isn't what I intended to communicate. And so if we could redo this, and you're just like, really?
I just
Really,
built
man?
this thing out. Yeah.
And so that, as you can imagine, just fell flat on its face. Like trying to make 2 games. Some people had never made a game in their life before. And so that failed. But what was really cool was after that, they gave us another opportunity to make a game. And they came to everyone and said, do you want to try and do this again? And as you can probably imagine, all of the planners basically said, no, it was a nightmare. Please, never, let's do this again.
You're
And so
right.
it was all just programmers and artists.
Okay. Huh.
That's kind of where I got my first break at Capcom. Capcom is definitely like, for all the painful memories and not very positive memories I have, that starting point was definitely very positive, in that it gave me this opportunity to basically be a director in my first year.
Right.
Because it was a bunch of artists and a bunch of programmers, probably in total a team of 15. And we had this competition, basically, which is, let's come up with a game idea. And the person that brings the best game idea to the table will actually have that made into a game by this team of 15. And the person that did it was... at the time, someone that come into the company with me called Hishta, and she'd come up with this idea on her own, which is basically a bunch of monsters and ghouls and Santa Clauses are trying to get into your house in the middle of the night, and you've just got to board up your house until morning, and then they'll screw off and
you got to keep Santa Claus out. Keep Santa Claus out of that fucking bastard breaking into your
Bloody
house.
Santa
The hell if
Claus.
we're gonna let him break in?
And multiple
Santa
Santa
Claus.
Clauses as well.
Multiple, yeah. Oh
you
man, the
can't even
Santa Claus
imagine, right?
Brigade, those guys.
And so that basically turned into the game, probably one of Capcom's most famous games, Tap Tip Block'em.
Fumin's Night, isn't that what you guys call
Fumin's
it?
Night is the Japanese, yeah.
What
Tap Tip
the hell
Block'em
is
was the stupid
Fumin's?
English.
What is a
I
Fumin?
don't know. No, it basically meant,
hell.
for the night of non-sleepers or something like that. People that
Oh,
don't
is that?
sleep.
Oh, Fumin.
Yeah, Fumin. Yeah, very silly.
Insomniac Night.
Insomniac. Now that's a much better name. Why did?
Yeah, why the hell did you go with Tic Tac Block? I'm assuming. Wait, hold on. I'm
Actually,
assuming
now
you
you
came
say-
up with the English.
Well, I kind of did.
I figured, okay.
But I threw out like 100 names to Apple, and Apple picked Tap Tip Block'em. So you can blame Apple for that one.
Wow, that
Friend of the
sounds.
show.
This is
Let's
like
leave it
really
there.
big.
I love
information, Yeah.
No. Apple actually were really great, because we're all first years. We know nothing. Let's face it. And actually, that was one of the best things I learned from this, is that when you're making a game design and you're trying to make a game, you've got to think about how you're going to sell that game. Like, you really have from the very outset. Like, what's the business model? None of us cared about that. We barely were able to make a game that was fun. But we did actually get the opportunity to go to the Apple headquarters and present our case.
Awesome.
And they kind of came back and were like, we will promote this if you do this, and this, which at the time was, supporting the newer iPads, which had just gone to the Retina displays. Things like cloud saving, stuff like that. So this is a long time ago.
Did you do that stuff?
Yeah, and then we did. We took another few months, which again, you've got to commend Capcom for that, because you've got all these newbies basically making this game that pretty much everyone knows isn't going to make any money, and they're paying our salaries at the same time.
That is really cool to send you out to Apple too.
Well,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got
totally.
a full education, right?
We
you
really did, yeah.
You already had your formal education at the technical school.
Yeah.
And then after you got in, actually, I was having this conversation with someone at lunch, but we're talking about how, what you lack in the schools, you're getting a lot of skills, but you don't have the experience.
That's
And
it,
So now
yeah.
you're getting the actual practical experience on top of that.
Exactly, making games and working in teams is, you do it to some extent at school, but some people didn't as well, because there's a lot of people that come in from art schools and stuff where it's literally all solo work.
Right.
So you've never worked in a team before, you've never worked on a game before.
Time constraints, there's no budget constraints.
Yeah, absolutely. And so people know nothing about that. And so that's a really good way to kind of, trial by fire, as it were.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so that was really, really good, and I got to commend Capcom for that, because that really helped me to realise a couple of things. It was first of all, like I just said, you've got to have a business model if you're designing a game, because I always really wanted to be a game designer, and I actually studied art because I figured when I went to a lot of schools, I realised nowhere really had a decent enough curriculum to teach game design, because it wasn't really something that was taught. Now in the West, it's very much properly kind of defined, but even then I would argue there's still a lot of room for improvement. But anyway, in Japan at least, game design is very much subjective.
Yeah.
And so if you're learning from someone subjective and they've got it wrong, then you're screwed. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. But whereas art, fine art and stuff like that, that's been proven for hundreds of years that's the way to do it. So I figured I'll learn art, I can learn game design on the side, which is exactly what I got to do at Capcom. And so
Did Apple end up promoting the game?
they did, yeah. We were on the top page. We were number one seller for that week.
An hour.
Yeah, exactly, a whole hour.
Well, God, I'm just thinking. I wonder how many people listen to this podcast have played Tip Tap Block'em.
tap tip block and
They're gonna look
Whatever.
like
You even got it wrong.
Is it-
So. No, that's the point. Like,
Dude,
and-
Insomniac Night is so much better.
so much better. I
And
know.
that took me a whole 2 seconds.
Yeah, and now it's not even a thing. Like you can't even play it anymore because it's not been supported.
Oh, it's not on there
It was
anymore?
just that.
Oh, because it's not
The OS is
64-bit
gone.
probably.
Yeah,
It's
right.
not
Yeah, it's
64-bit.
just that successful.
Oh, man. So we're going to have to do a Kickstarter or something. We're going to have to
Please,
like...
man.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Everybody hit up
Exactly.
Capcom US and say, look, we want...
Okay, I'm
Address them
cutting
all
this.
to Matt. To Matt
Yeah.
at Capcom.
Address your concerns to Matt Walker.
At Capcom.com, please. But anyway, so that was a really good experience for me. I learned a lot, and after that, I went into the Resident Evil team. So I actually then at that time met some dudes on like the 16th floor.
the local is it back when Loc was on the 16th floor. That's right.
There's some pretty cool dudes.
Met some
from America.
Loc dudes. Whatever. Loc
And
dudes.
being British, actually, I hadn't actually had that many American
You
friends
were
at that
there.
point.
I know.
Yeah.
You were production.
I was
So I
production.
got to know
So-
such awesome people as Matthew Walker and Peter Fabiano and Miguel Corti. There was
Miguel
some
Corti's the only
Mike
one
guy
that
as
matters.
well.
He's now. Yeah.
Yeah, Mikhail. Yeah, what a dude. But no, seriously, like because actually, as Pete was saying, I joined the company as a like a new employee, and that was the first year they'd ever had any foreigners join as new employees. So there were like maybe 5 to 10 of us. No, even less than that.
You were the pioneer.
Like I think it was me, like Rick, and then
Oh,
Shah,
right.
and
Yep,
so literally like less than 5 people were like these these foreigner employees in the dev teams.
Wow, all the foreign employees in the dev teams. Okay.
And so, otherwise, every other employee was Japanese, right? And so, being able to speak Japanese, I could obviously make friends with them, but there's a massive cultural difference. And so, getting to know you guys was really great for me because you spoke English.
That was it.
Yeah,
you just
that
like
was
the
it.
fact that we spoke.
Otherwise, you're,
we're kind of crap, but
Yeah, but
at least we speak
the English really helped.
We speak it English.
No, it was really cool. And so, Capcom had that side, thanks to the localization, the coordination teams at the time that you were leading, Pete, made some really good friends. And that's actually why I'm here tonight, I guess. But
Cool.
That is true.
Thank you.
yeah, so in that way, Capcom was great. The Resident Evil team, though, I had some, Pete, I think like a lot of the hardships I had. But that, again, like, for all of the negative points, there were definitely positive points that I learned from.
Well, I think
know
you
I
can
had
say
some-
that about pretty much anything, right?
I guess it's the way you look at it,
Yeah.
really, isn't it? Like, but I had some really good opportunities as well. I went to, I think you were with me at the time. We went to Montreal. Oh no, that was just Jeff and I, wasn't it? We went to Montreal.
Yeah, I was not there.
Yeah,
Oh, you just wished.
were snubbed for that
You
one.
wished I were there.
I wished you were there. And that was when
nice.
we were working on
Right.
the precursor to Revelations
Right,
2,
right.
otherwise known as
Dooms
Doomsday. Yeah,
and or
Doomsday
Descendants,
is-
depending on
However
who
you
you're
wanna
talking.
call it.
Before, I don't remember what the difference was between Descendants and Doomsday anymore.
Whatever. Let's go on.
Yeah, it's really unimportant at this point. But no, I learned a lot there, and working with an external writer was great because I got to learn a lot about game design outside of the way that Capcom thinks about game design. And in fact, being in Montreal, there's a very different Western way of thinking about game design. And that's, even today, I go back to those principles that I learned from that person. And that was a really great opportunity. And once the Resident Evil team, I'd kind of left the Resident Evil team between Rev 2 and Resident Evil 7. And even after that, I got some good opportunities to do some, again, you'll like this one, Matt, R&D
Ooh.
at Capcom. They have it even at Capcom.
Research
I don't know if
and
You know what?
development.
We even named our buildings after this R&D
yeah.
thing.
Man, that's amazing.
so true.
It's crazy.
Dude, it's so nice to finally know what that stands for. Oh my
know.
god.
I'm glad we did
It makes
this,
so
Matt.
much more. Thank you.
No problem, mate.
Okay, yeah, you worked on RE7, so actually I think you were part of the trip for RE7, weren't you?
No, I was not.
You were not part of the trip. There you go.
Which trip are you talking about?
I was
trip
thinking
to
of the
Louisiana?
location scouting, but now come to think of it, no, you did the location scouting for Doom.
Yeah, that was amazing actually.
Yeah, see, he
Yeah,
wasn't
another-
that involved in I guess.
No,
later on in
RE7, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Like the kind of pre-concept phase I was there for, but then I left the team.
Right.
But then what you were talking about was actually really cool. That was for Revelations 2,
Right.
or the precursor to that.
Yeah.
Right.
We got to go to Estonia,
Yep.
and that was really, really cool. Like we
Who
went
went
to
with you for that? It was you and what? Like
me,
Horiyuchi-san?
Horiyuchi-san,
Okay.
Who is?
Teroga. Horiyuchi-san is like a designer who
Game
I
designer.
assume still works on the Resident Evil franchise.
Yeah.
He may or may not. Yeah.
Yeah.
He worked on. Well, he worked
Like I
on
say, I'm a
R7.
student, so-
He worked on R7.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he-
we know
yeah.
that. We know that.
Teraoka-san, who's an artist, and a couple of other artists. So there was a bunch of us went, but that was really cool because we basically just went to Estonia to go to the scariest places we could possibly find.
No kidding.
Yeah, to do
Wow.
because that was right at the start of using like photogrammetry, which is for anyone that doesn't know, that's basically taking a shit ton of photos to then create a 3D model of that object or room or space or whatever it is.
In almost a spherical shape, right? You have to actually have the cameras around. The
Pretty
object,
much,
right?
yeah.
You
Like
can't
you're
just take
saying
the
it's-
same picture.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You're taking pictures from lots of different angles,
Right.
and the computer will pass the fact that, okay, this one from this angle, this one from this angle. If you mash all those together, you're probably trying to make this 3D object.
Which is what we did for RE7.
Exactly. Yeah, it's extensively, right? And it made
Yeah.
it look very real because of that.
But we didn't really do that for Revelations 2,
Well, we were
except
trying.
for
It was kind of like setting up R&D.
right
Which I don't know if you've heard of before.
research and development
yeah.
for.
No, but that was really,
we did that
really
for
cool.
the characters, but not for a lot of the characters. But
No,
not.
no, but for the backgrounds as well.
And
Did you guys really? Did you guys scan stuff for the background?
Yeah, well, Resident Evil 7 had it extensively again.
For
but
that, yeah.
I'm talking about Rev 2. Fuck RE7. Rev
Wow.
2.
I'm feeling a lot of hatred. Like, well, Pete, you were heavily involved in that title.
No, not
Fuck you.
Not hatred. It's just I
Anything
mean,
we're involved in.
my titles are better. That's all.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be on any titles. if it
Well,
weren't
probably
for
the
me.
best
Anyway.
part of Revelations 2 would be a group of logs that I made. The first thing I ever made was like a pile of logs. So they're in there somewhere. And so if anyone saw those logs and were like, those are damn fine logs, that's me.
Do you think they're the ones that were in the little house, like when you go in and you fight the homunculi for the first time?
You've lost me.
Did you
But
play?
they
Did you
weren't
play
small
Revelations
logs.
2? Oh,
course I
they're
did.
big logs, right?
Yeah, they're really big.
I think I know which one
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah, those
I
are
think-
my
I think you're
logs.
I think I know the logs. They're in
I don't know if they're
episode
the
1.
specific logs.
They're in
but-
episode 1. They're in episode 1. And there's-
Okay. Thank you for...
Did you play Revelations fucking 1 or 2? Did you
Sure.
play Revelations 2?
Sure. I
Did you really?
Yeah.
Honest to God.
He just made the logs. Come on, man.
Yeah, thank you. I made the logs. That's all about. But anyway, let's forget the logs. Basically, the Estonia trip was amazing because, like I say, we got to go to these really scary places. Anywhere that the theme at the time was very kind of like Soviet and was it like block architecture and stuff
Right.
like that. So
Yeah.
we went in the middle of a forest in this middle of an island that was uninhabited. And you just be in this giant like concrete structure made for World War II. No one there. If you pushed someone down there and killed them, like no one would ever know.
No kidding.
I thought about it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Who would you kill?
It sounds like you thought about
you
it.
have
Put it this way,
you have
the guy was
Tedoka,
not a very nice person.
you have Tedoka-san, you have Horyuchi-san. You have
No,
these two
actually,
people.
that's the lie. The guy was a nice person. They taught us how to eat like grass.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
This is weird, man.
It was very weird. And we walked on this like the ground was like made of giant mushrooms, and it was all very. Maybe that was after I'd eaten the grass, but
Yeah, or maybe the mushrooms.
I did eat a lot of them. So. No, it was really really cool. And so I guess actually it's interesting now because so after Capcom, I went to 17-bit, which is a much smaller company in Kyoto, but again for anyone wanting to get into the industry, I definitely think it's worth going to a large company, no matter what your ultimate goal is, because like I was saying earlier, you get to learn how to kind of make games or not to make games in some cases, but you get these opportunities to go to these places that you just wouldn't if you were with a smaller company, right? So I got to go to Estonia, I got to go to E3, I got to go to maybe GDC.
You went to E3. Hold on, you went to E3. You went to E3 before me.
Yeah,
You went to E3 for Revelations 2.
probably.
No, I don't think it was Rev 2.
Why
No,
did you go
it's
to
probably
E3?
something else. Probably
I didn't get to go to
You
E3
did-
until
you went to
Monster
GDC
Hunter
as
World.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, you did go to GDC.
So
GDC, well, GDC, yeah.
what can I say, Matt?
You're a game
Took your
developer.
place.
That's
I don't
cool.
know
like,
if that's
it's
how
Tom
it
or
works.
Matt.
Yeah, Tom or Matt. Totally different roles.
That's cool, though. That is cool. That's cool, though.
But no,
you
there's
got
these
all those
opportunities that you get at larger companies that you just can't get at smaller ones. And
Well, there are definitely benefits to working in a smaller company too.
no, exactly, and that like so.
What are those
moving-
benefits?
So moving on from Capcom, I went to 17-bit, as I said, and that was very cool. Like it was a much kind of closer knit team. That was on a game called Galaxy, which came out a good few years ago now, but has recently finally kind of made its way onto mobile and then Switch. and I had a big hand in the mobile conversion because my main job actually there was basically taking a PS4 game, the original Galaxy, turning that into a free-to-play mobile game. There's probably a lot of people going, boo, free-to-play.
What were you credited at? Because we had dinner with Jake, the head of the studio, two nights ago.
Yeah.
And I was asking what you were credited as. Do you remember what you were credited as?
I was a designer on Galaxy. I'm pretty sure we don't have any credits on Galaxy Mobile because it's not a... But I don't care, to be honest. Like, I don't do it for the credits. I do it for the money.
The credits.
And
The money, which is why you're not...
And that's why
you're at unnamed Osaka theme park now.
No. It was really, really cool. And we were a really close-knit team, like I said. And I worked with some people there who were just amazing. Like, people that had started indie companies themselves, people that had worked, Microsoft, Sony, places like that. But only when you go to a small company like that do you really get to know. I feel anyway, you really get to know the people you work with because you're hanging out with them.
Matt or I.
No, you guys pretty much.
We're just a mystery.
You guys are
Exactly.
just a mystery. You were there.
Bizarre Americans. I don't know.
Yeah.
Their weird accents.
I didn't want to say it. But no, you really get to know the team members you're working with.
Sure.
And I don't know, like that closer knit team. Again, it's a personal thing, though. I think like it really depends what you want out of a job, out of a career.
Absolutely.
And for me, like I found it whether it was the university where I learned Japanese, which is a very small university in London. Like I've always enjoyed smaller knit teams where you have a bigger say in things, like more ownership over what you're doing,
right,
but you have more responsibility. Like that's the trade-off.
Sure, because lines can be blurred, especially in a startup. Any startup doesn't have to even be games.
Yep.
There's going to be your role is pretty expansive.
Wasn't Blurred Lines? Wasn't that the name of that song?
Let's not talk about that song. Please continue.
Oh, I'm laughing pretty hard now.
Inside.
Yeah. What was I saying? Thank you, Matt. No, basically, yeah. Like working at 17-bit, I had some great experiences. But at the same time, I still had some pretty large experiences as well. Our publisher was Gung Ho, and I got to work with them directly. So
that's awesome.
People that did Puzzle and Dragons, pretty much the biggest mobile game in the world when we started working.
Right.
I think maybe I'm completely wrong, but I thought you've told me stories about how like you've had meetings with what's his name, the dude that's the head of Gung Ho.
Morishita-san, yeah.
Morishita-san, that's insane.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. I obviously had to, because I was the lead designer, I had to go and pitch my ideas.
That's amazing.
This is what I want to do for the free.
So he's just like, hey, I'm the CEO, but by the way, I'm going to work directly with you because I'm that cool.
But wait, I think this is actually pretty important. So you're at a smaller company, and you said that sometimes experiences are different at big and large, small and large companies. But at the smaller company, that's when you got the opportunity to actually present to a president or owner of a company.
No, that's a very good point. But I would point out that they're very different experiences, right?
Sure.
It's being at the smaller company, I got to be like I was in the same room as the CEO every day. So if anything was going wrong, we'd talk it out. And I'd also got the job of like lead designer without even being called a lead designer. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It was just like I was pretty much the only other designer in the room.
Right.
And I was taking charge of this project while other projects were going on. So that made me the lead designer. And if there's that few people, I mean, Tina will know, it's a very small company. It's like at the end of the day, you have to do a lot of different jobs. And like I was saying earlier, I definitely prefer that. And you have a lot of responsibility, but a lot of ownership at the same time. And so going to present to the president of Gung Ho only made sense because it was me that was making the design. If I gave that to someone else to go and present, it wouldn't have made any sense.
Right.
Whereas the opportunities I got at Capcom were much more kind of like general, right?
Right.
Going to do this location hunting, it could have really been anyone else, but I was at the time like level designer on the team. I spoke both English and Japanese, which meant that I could help out the other team members because obviously everyone in Estonia speaks English. Not true. And we definitely felt that when we wandered one night into some dude's garden. I'm pretty sure he had a gun, and I had to be the one going like, we don't mean to be in here.
We're not stealing your vegetables. Igor, we are not stealing your vegetables.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But like I say, like the experience is definitely, like, as you said, Pete, like there's definitely large experiences you can get at a smaller company, but I feel like they're very different. Kind of like the personal level is very different. So, but anyway, so 17-bit was awesome.
Still thinking of the image of Matt with a gun.
Yeah, Matt,
me with a gun.
Yeah, and you trying to steal his vegetables.
Anytime, Matt, I'll take you. But
do not take
yes.
Do not take radish. You will not like. It's no good.
So hot.
Yes, I know.
Hello.
This is my American accent. Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Heard it
good.
many,
Very,
many
very
times.
American. Very American.
Now I do Hawaiian accent. Hello.
That's Matt's accent for the
Wow.
rest of the night.
Anyway, let's please.
Sure. And so once I was kind of finished at 17-bit, which is pretty much the cut-off line was finishing Galaxy Mobile. We pretty much at launch, and I was like, okay, I've kind of been making this game for 2.5 years now, which is one of the curses of video games. You can be on a game for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Some people even more, right? But I just wanted to do something that was a bit smaller, a bit shorter turnaround. And Galaxy itself, had taken a number of years. I come on at the end, and then doing the mobile version took a couple of years or so. So I was kind of looking for a different experience, and that's when I found the theme park gig. And like I say, I was lead designer at. I was a lead designer, I should say, at 17-bit. But I was kind of... One thing I'd noticed about the industry, and Pete being a producer... Matt
One thing about Pete. One thing
about
Horrible things about
the
people.
industry is a lot of the time there's so many video games out there, right, that are awesome games that just aren't really making any money, right? Not making any profit, which is the important thing. You can make a shit ton of money, but if the money you made was less than the money you put into it, you're not going to make any profit.
Sure, that's how anything works, right?
Exactly right, and it's
the profit cycle.
it's such a simple thing that you'd think would be at the forefront of everyone's mind. Is actually usually the thing that kind of gets left behind when making games.
Well, I mean, at least from when you're talking about
Exactly.
I don't know about
creative
17-bit,
perspective, right?
but yeah, as the creator, yeah. All right, so I think Unnamed Theme Park is one of the
Unnamed.
best. Unnamed Theme Park is one of the best
Unnamed
places
theme
on earth.
park.
I love it. I have a yearly pass to it. My daughter
Wherever
loves
it may be.
wherever it is. I'm going to get out of here because I have to go to a meeting. So you guys continue talking about Unnamed Theme Park. I look forward to hearing that.
We weren't even talking
No, we
about
weren't.
the unnamed theme park.
I want to hear that part though.
Okay.
I very much want to hear that.
That's great.
So you guys have fun. I'll catch you guys on the flip side, and I love all the listeners.
Unfortunately, Matt had to take off because of an engagement he has. Matt has to go to work. We're still here at TGS, so I'm unfortunately going to be the only person left to talk to Tom. But let's continue our conversation, Tom.
Okay, no problem. So where were we? I think I was talking a bit about... I can't even remember now. That made
That's how
it
it
very
works.
difficult to focus. Yeah, basically moving from 17-bit, what to do next. And I was a designer at the time, but I like I was saying, it's like, it seems like there's this, especially in the creative side of things anyway, this ability to ignore whether the game is going to make any profit or not. And that goes back to what I was saying. What I really learned at Capcom is you've got to have that business model at the beginning of designing a game, because at the end of the game, if your game doesn't make any money, if you're an indie and you're literally making an art title and you don't care whether the game makes any money or not, sure, go for it. Like, I definitely applaud that. But most people that make games have to make money, and what that really means is to make profit. You have to put in a certain amount of resources and hope to God that you're going to get.
Well, there's
Not
also
bad.
kind of a dichotomy there, and by that I mean the creators are left to create, right?
Right, right.
At Capcom, we're very dev focused, so the creators
absolutely.
really make the game they want to make.
True.
And then the producers are supposed to be there to take the game that they want to make
Right.
and be able to make it interesting. And
Well, you
put
used
that
an
out
interesting
there.
phrase there. You said supposed to be there. Like,
Well, I mean,
do you know
I-
what I mean? It's...
Yeah, I think that every team is different and functions differently.
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
And so, because of that, I think the goal is twofold, right? With anything like a film, for example.
Yeah.
A film is being made by a director, and he has a vision,
Yep.
and you want him to make the vision in the best way he can, and there are efficiencies in place. And this gets into kind of almost a philosophical or abstract discussion.
Right,
but
fair enough, yeah.
I think that focusing on the creative is actually quite important, but it can't be the only thing. Obviously, at the end of the day, it needs to be something that people love, and you want to be able to show people why it's good.
No, absolutely.
And so you need someone to actually do that. Someone who is either a front man or, with PR, marketing, all of those tools.
Right.
A lot of times people hear, PR, that means they're just trying to sell me something. Well, yes and no, right? We're trying to show. I think any product is trying to show you the best aspects of what that product is, and
Right.
so I think being honest and open is the best way to go about that. And then having ideas. So if you're talking about free to play specifically, I think then it becomes even more entrenched. Then you have to have that business model very early on. Whereas something where it's more, a AAA game, there are best practices already in place. So I think those hopefully will be taken into account. I'm speaking in general, not just to Capcom here, but
Sure.
so is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, yeah, my main point was that, going back to your point, is that from the creative point of view, really it is about just making the best product, right? You shouldn't really have to be thinking about how much money is this costing.
Right.
This many artists, is that okay to create this kind of...
Right.
But at the same time, I was finding myself really thinking, is that okay? Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to make this thing that needs to be profitable. Maybe everyone should be thinking about it. And that just kind of turned the way I was looking at things, just from simply a designer to more of the kind of producer role, where you're looking at, okay, we have this much time and this much money. For example, can we do the thing that I even designed? You know what I mean?
Right.
And when you really look at it in that way, you're like, okay, I think I need to take the money and the time into account more. And it's really what took me into the job I'm in now, which is now a producer.
Right.
Which is very different from a designer in many ways.
Yes.
But actually quite similar in many ways as well, because I find like you need that, how to put it, the knowledge of what things cost and how are things made.
Right.
Like as a designer or whatever it is, whether it's designer, an artist, an animator, you have to have some knowledge of that, right?
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, how do you estimate? How do you manage a budget? How do you manage a schedule?
Right.
And so it was actually a really interesting position, producer. And I think the term producer is, defined in a lot of different ways. Everyone has their own kind of definition for it. But definitely that is a really interesting part of it, is that it's not just about the money and the time. You have to understand the creative side of it to then make sure it works with,
Well, because if you're just looking at time and money, then you're going to end up with a skeleton of what was trying to be made.
Right, like you were saying earlier.
If you ignore it.
Yeah, like a director usually has a vision, right?
Right.
And if you're like, okay, that vision's all well and good, but we only have this much time and this much money, it's never going to work, right?
And so that goes back to what we said very early on. It's the restrictions that actually give birth to creativity.
Yeah.
So here's your vision, but here's our budget.
Yes.
And here's our timeline.
Yeah.
And what can we do with that? Well, if that's the case, how about we do this? How about we're creative about how we approach this? How about we're creative about what type of dev tools we're using? I mean, there's so many things we can do to make whatever it is we're trying to achieve happen.
True.
And then you have to make concessions sometimes, right? Do we need to say, nobody wants to have this conversation, but do we need to remove features? Do we... Maybe there's a feature, but on the other side, it's like maybe there's a feature that's so amazing that we actually want to add it, but that's going to add time and cost.
Yeah.
Well, we weighed that.
Right.
Maybe it makes sense to do that. Let's go ahead and do it. It's going to make it that much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the conversations that require that you understand the vision.
Absolutely.
And the design. Because if you don't, then it's like, nope. Our deadline is tomorrow. We're doing it. It's done tomorrow.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to have, you know what? Yeah, go ahead and just make it until you're done. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah,
Because if you go to that level, there's no perfect product.
Yeah.
Ever.
There's no end.
There's no way to make a perfect product. So you try to make it the best it can be, but you need limitations, I think.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. And actually, it's interesting, like thinking back to, like I was saying, the Revelations 2 precursor Descendants, and going back to, that external writer and designer. A lot of what he taught me was, the Western way of thinking, or at least his way of thinking and the companies he'd worked at, was that it's about almost minimalism in design. It's like looking at all the features you're trying to do and identifying which of those are actually absolutely key for this game. Like you come up with like a game idea or concept, right? And then you come up with all these features that it could have. But at the end of the day, if it has, certain features, it makes it a better game. But there's certain features that as soon as you remove that one feature, it stops being that game or stops being that concept. And those are the ones I feel like you need to identify first.
The critical points, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really, at the time, I think at the time the the core pillars was the term that kept coming up, right? And everyone loved to use in the industry. I don't actually hear it that often now.
No, it's I don't either actually.
But that was kind of the buzzword at the time. But it is a really important thing. And
I mean, we still talk about pillars, of course,
right?
and
right.
what the core
design pillars and stuff like that, right? But it's really being able to identify what those are, and then I think having the humility to go like, okay, well, what if we did have to cut everything else? Would it still be a game worth making and worth?
And will it hold to the vision? Is that what we had set in mind?
Right. No, that's a good point too. Yeah, I just like it's really, it comes down to, as we were talking about, like the time and money to make that creative vision, but also an element I think gets left out too often as well is the target audience.
Right, absolutely.
The people you're making it for, are they really going to find value in what you're making? Because I think that's another struggle a lot of creative people especially struggle with, is that it's like, I'm making this game and I think I'm making it for, whether it's like, 10 to 20-year-old females or 30 to 40-year-old males. But what inevitably happens is you start making it for yourself. And kind of putting yourself outside of that and then working on the game in terms of, what do those people want, I think is another thing that a lot of developers, including myself, could work a bit harder on. And
it's tough because your frame of reference is you.
Yes,
right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so you're playing something. And at the end of the day, there is some value in that. You need to enjoy what you're doing. Right? You need to enjoy what you're playing. Otherwise, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
But you also have to keep the player in mind. So there's so many factors involved. And I think there's a little bit of kind of having instinct, and then there's logic, and then there's design choice, and then there's so many elements. And I think we could talk about this for hours.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because it's very theoretical, and I would love to have that conversation. But I don't know if our listeners want to listen to us forever.
Hours,
as much, but that is definitely an awesome conversation. And if the listeners out there want to hear more about that, please let us know, because certainly that's something we often talk about. Right?
Yeah, no, it really is. Yeah. But anyway, so that really is what led me to the job I have now, which is now I'm a producer at a theme park, which is very different from games in some ways, but surprisingly very similar in many ways. And as I was talking about earlier, with digital becoming more and more prevalent in everyone's life, everyone has a smartphone, for example, and VR is becoming more of a thing. It's the knowledge that you learn from making video games, especially video game design, is now applicable to so many other industries that maybe it wasn't 5 to 10 years ago. And I found that to be really interesting. And so theme parks are, again, a really interesting space as well, because when I was at school, I was talking about this to someone from my school today that I went to visit at TGS. It was like, when I was looking for jobs, like I was saying earlier, it was like Capcom and Nintendo were the two companies I was looking at. Never once did any theme park come up as a possibility, even though
you wouldn't even think of it, right?
Well, just down the road, the Tokyo Disneyland and Disney Sea existed, right?
Yeah.
And you'd think that they'd come up but not at all. And it's really interesting to think how theme parks, I think, don't get thought of as a creative industry.
Actually, marketing firms too. A lot of the skills that advertising, marketing, it's moving into that space. There's a lot you can do there.
Yeah.
So there are spaces that are kind of coalescing.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty interesting space, and taking those skills, I think they can parlay into the other.
Absolutely. And I think a lot
if it's what you want to do, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. It comes down to what the individual wants to do. But those skills are usually, because of the digital age we live in, they kind of make that crossover that maybe they wouldn't have before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very interesting industry, and for anyone that's interested in it, I'd say definitely try and get your foot in the door. And as I said, I kind of gave you the recipe for doing it, as long as you...
Yeah, the easy way. If you're willing to put in like 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
And sleep an hour or two.
As long as you're willing to basically,
work
like a Japanese salary man and,
And you're rich enough to pay for the school.
But like I said, you do the jobs to pay for the school.
That's why he's never sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. And hope that the currency exchange doesn't completely screw you over, but that's another story together.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, for being on the show.
No, thank you.
Yeah, cool. It was great having you, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. There's one more day. I know you guys are busy.
Thanks, it's been really cool so far. Thanks for having me on, and I'll just mention that I'm the only one that actually stayed to the end. So.
Well, I'm still here, and so is Tina. She's still changed.
You're in the corner.